JLo has made many enemies in her world, with many being those who work for her. They've leaked some awful details about her and shown just how horrible she is. Now, Gilly Liar had been a longtime assistant to JLo before she quit and went to work for Mariah Carey in 2013. It's been said that the main reason why she quit was because of JLo's boyfriend at the time, Casper Smart. Apparently, Casper was allowed to do whatever he wanted in the house, and this included him mistreating the staff members. That upset Gilly, a source told Radar Online. Casper always insisted that Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that Gilly get him drinks. So it appears that JLo let her assistant get disrespected, which is just not okay at all, and it shows what kind of person she really is. Then there's the time when she got everyone to turn on her longtime makeup artist Scott Barnes. There had been a leak on JLo's team as they exposed to the press that JLo was planning on getting married to Mark Anthony. Now, JLo claimed that Scott was one of the employees who betrayed her, so she fired him and made everyone ignore him. The thing was, they never asked him about it though, they just fired him. Now, during an interview on the Jeff Probst show, he claimed that he didn't know anything about the wedding and wasn't the leak, but JLo's team still shunned him. Scott said, "Nobody would talk to me, it was like I had the plague." Then, when the truth came out that Scott did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he received a phone call from Jen, who Scott claimed said the following. It was like, "Hey, it was a big misunderstanding, you know we have a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work." Although Scott was very gracious about the whole thing, it appears that JLo did not apologize to him, and it's just crazy to me that he went back working for her and that no one put a stop to her behavior. Now, near the end of last year, Elon Musk was speaking on the Joe Rogan Experience when he began talking about JLo's criticism of the recently elected president and his remarks about Puerto Ricans. Elon then brought up JLo's personal history with Diddy as she dated him from 1999 to 2001. He said JLo was like his ex-girlfriend and now all of a sudden she's warning people about this person, but how many people did she warn about Diddy? Oh, 0. Maybe we shouldn't trust her opinion. He added people in the music industry had to know that Diddy was doing these things. Where's that accountability? They had to know. Now, Ojani Noah, JLo's ex-husband, claimed that she was involved in Diddy's freak-offs that came up in his federal indictment. "I'm not on the list," Ojani wrote on Instagram. To those people and media outlets asking if I ever went or participated in that piece of Diddy's freak-off parties, no and no, never. But my ex-wife, Jennifer Lopez, aka JLo, did. Ask her. But in a shocking turn of events, one of her past assistants has come to her defense. Thea D'Souza, who worked with JLo on the 2002 film Made in Manhattan, posted a statement on Threads that said, "If you knew Jennifer Lopez, if you ever worked with her like I did, or if you were close with people who are like family to her like I am, you would know she did not have any idea about Diddy. She barely drinks, she's not a partier, she isn't a good time girl, she's a workaholic who uplifts women, and who was charmed by him for a brief time in her life." Now, Thea emphasized that JLo does not deserve to be conflated with Diddy's shocking and criminal misdeeds. So Thea claims that JLo is innocent in all of this, but she's the only one who's spoken out. You see, JLo is refusing to speak about her ex Diddy. She walked out of an autograph signing at AFI Fest 2024 when someone in the crowd asked her if she had any comments about Diddy and the allegations. The US Mirror tabloid reported that the singer left immediately, despite fans' pleas that she stay. And don't expect her to say anything. In May, after video footage of Diddy hurting his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura was brought to light, JLo stayed silent. Now, many of Diddy's other exes have spoken out against him, but not JLo. Though tabloid sources claim that the Cassie footage disgusted her, JLo was silent on the subject and has stayed that way. Sources are saying that Jen is not going to address the accusations or take time to talk about them because it's not her story to tell. If an interviewer brought it up, she would cross that path as and when it happens, but she won't address it publicly and will not put herself in that conversation on purpose. Then there was the fact when JLo and Mark Anthony's twins needed nannies, JLo gave them a grueling schedule. Now, normally people who make a lot of money, like JLo for example, have numerous people who help them with everyday tasks, especially childcare, as it can be so difficult. But Jennifer expected one nanny, not only to take care of both twins, but to work 16-hour days, 7 days a week, as an insider told the National Enquirer. Now, unsurprisingly, the first nanny she hired left after just a week of working for her. They hired her second nanny, who was wonderful with the twins, but she couldn't take working such long hours without a break, a source said. So then she quit after just a week as well. And yeah, I don't blame them for quitting. I mean, that schedule is just unreasonable. Then in 2022, a girl named Kyla posted a TikTok saying that her dad worked for a company that JLo would hire for drivers. But apparently he heard so many bad stories about the star that he never wanted to be her driver. It said that JLo does not allow her drivers to look or talk to her. She's also so strict that if the driver looks through the rearview mirror and makes eye contact with her, she will freak out. Not to mention that she has a crazy rule that her luggage cannot touch the ground. Now, it appears that this story is real though, because one of JLo's former drivers sued her. Hakab Menokian claims he started driving for JLo and Mark Anthony in 2005. He said that the three of them had such a great bond that they convinced him to shut down his company and work exclusively as JLo's personal head of security and transportation. He claimed that JLo agreed to pay him more than $200,000 per year, but things went downhill in 2011. This is when Hakab claims he was forced to spend time with JLo's manager, Benny Medina. He claims that Benny hated him and even found a way to convince JLo to demote him, taking away his security responsibilities and making him JLo's LA driver, and that was it. Now, he says that he was basically forced to resign and then sued JLo and Benny for unspecified damages. JLo then countersued him for extortion, but her suit was dismissed in December 2012. Now, the two eventually settled on undisclosed terms, but that honestly just sounds like a horrible situation. And finally, one of JLo's backup singers, Julia Wang, posted on TikTok how horrible it was to work with the star. She said she was so mean to her backup singers. If you were pretty or if you were Latina, like, game over, she hated you. Julia also said that JLo refused to talk or even look at any of the singers during their rehearsals, except for an occasional eye roll or scoff, which is just crazy. She acted like a bully. Can you imagine spending time with someone working in a closed setting every single day for months, and this person never even acknowledging you or acting like you exist? She asked. And honestly, no, I can't. That sounds like a horrible work environment. Now, she also shared that JLo changes the way she acts when there are men present, and Julia added that she only treats the women poorly because she views them as competition. It seems like if you have anything to do with JLo, it would just be horrible. Some celebrities just need to treat their employees better. Why? Well, Lady Gaga's former assistant Jennifer O'Neill claimed that she was owed payment for 7,168 hours of overtime, and claimed that she was responsible for ensuring the promptness of a towel following a shower and serving as a personal alarm clock for the singer so she could keep up with her hectic schedule. She also alleged that Gaga expected her to be at her service from the earliest waking hours and wanted her duties to extend to stadiums, private jets, fine hotel suites, yachts, ferries, trains, and tour buses. Now, she also alleged that the schedule meant she was unable to take breaks or even at times sleep. In her testimony though, Gaga said that Jennifer is an effing hood rat who is suing me for money she didn't earn, she said. She thinks she's just like the queen of the universe, and you know what, she didn't want to be a slave to one, because in my work and what I do, I'm the queen of the universe every day. Gaga then claimed that her assistant hadn't appreciated the perks of her job, stating she slept in Egyptian cotton sheets every night in 5-star hotels, on private planes, eating caviar, partying with photographer Terry Richardson all night, wearing my clothes, asking YSL to send her free shoes without my permission. It is like such an amazing luxury that I get to travel around the world and have planes, and she doesn't even see what luxury is. Now, in Hollywood, Sharon Stone is known for the terrible ways that she treats her staff. Doctors ordered Angelica Castillo, one of Sharon's former employees, to undertake a brief period of bed rest, but Sharon denied her request and told her that she would have to come into work that day. Then when Angelica mentioned that she was still in pain 4 months later, the actress allegedly called her crazy and stupid. Now, another employee, Erlinda Ellman, who was Sharon's nanny, spoke out about being fired in February 2011 after Sharon reportedly discovered she had wrongly been paid overtime. Erlinda alleged that Sharon made a number of disparaging comments about Filipinos, including calling them stupid people. Sharon shamed Erlinda for frequently attending church and on one occasion forbade her from reading the Bible in her own room. Now Sharon also ordered her not to speak to her 3 kids because she did not want them to talk like her. Then Holly Ann Hartman was Taryn Manning's assistant as well as her makeup artist. Holly Ann alleged though that she was physically attacked by the star. She even claimed that she'd been choked by Taryn during one particular altercation. Taryn was then ordered to stay away from Holly Ann after the allegations came to light, while the former's attorney said in a statement, they had a late night argument that turned into a bit of a physical altercation. Now Holly Ann, who had been close friends with Taryn for a number of years before the altercation, made the decision to forgive the actor for the attack, and because of their close relationship, didn't want to see her prosecuted. As a result, Taryn was ordered to carry out just 1 day of community service following the incident, and was told by the judge that she had to stay out of trouble for 6 months to avoid a more severe punishment. But yeah, that doesn't seem too nice to me. Now, Anna Wintour has served as editor-in-chief of Vogue since 1988. She has become an important figure in much of the fashion world, praised for her eye-emerging fashion trends, but there's also another side to her. Her reportedly aloof and demanding personality has earned her the nickname Nuclear Wintour. Now, ever heard of the film The Devil Wears Prada? Yeah, that was based on an assistant's experience with Anna. Miranda Priestley is the main character in the story, and she is a monster to her assistants. Miranda is ruthless, demanding, and doesn't understand that her staff members have lives of their own. Now she doesn't get close to anybody and expects her assistants to be there for her day and night. Now interestingly enough, no one in the fashion industry has come out to dispute these claims about Anna, and when asked about the novel, Anna simply stated, "I always enjoy a great piece of fiction." Yikes. Mariah Carey is known to be a diva, but her former assistant, Yesler Oliver, revealed the full extent of Mariah's controlling behavior when she filed a lawsuit against the singer in 2014. And some of the details will astonish you, they are just crazy. Now she testified that Mariah had her work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Not only that, but she wasn't paid any overtime for her efforts and even had to forego meal breaks. She put up with this for 7 years, but eventually quit in March 2007 and decided to get some compensation for her abysmal treatment. Her lawyer explained, "My client put her family's life on hold while tending to Mariah Carey's family, and Mariah repaid her by underpaying her." Now unfortunately it's unclear whether or not she actually received any money from the lawsuit, but the treatment was horrible. Katherine Heigl had a fallout with Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes, and things got messy, and this is due to how she behaved behind the scenes. Now Katherine has also been labeled as difficult, as she always has wardrobe issues, doesn't get out of her trailer, and she questions the script every single day. So if she acts that way for the people she works for, you know she acts that way, and even worse, to the people who work for her. According to a source on the set of 27 Dresses, she reportedly refused to film any scenes until her pregnant assistant ran around and got her a Coke Zero. Her pregnant assistant. Now that is just messed up. Now she also refused to eat lunch next to anyone or have anyone speak to her once the cameras stopped rolling. Due to her difficult behavior, she has earned a bad reputation with actors and directors alike, and that's not all surprising. Now Madonna is awful to her fans out in the open, so it's really no surprise that she's rude to her staff behind closed doors. An anonymous source revealed when one of Madonna's dancers broke her arm during practice, instead of being concerned for the dancer's well-being, Madonna had a meltdown. Another anonymous source said that Madonna does not pay very well, but she knows that the people she hires will work countless hours at less than premium wage just because she is Madonna. They also added that her ego is overinflated and she thinks that her staff are lucky to be in her presence. Now her former nanny took to Facebook to let everyone know that she was over dealing with the singer's ridiculous demands and that she was quitting. Another former worker has stated that as a person, Madonna is totally overbearing and forces her staff to be available 24/7. Now to prove how awful she is, in 2009, 5 staff members quit within 7 days. Yep, 5 different employees. 1 chauffeur, 2 nannies, and 2 personal assistants walked out on the star. Now Madonna always says that she isn't a diva, but after hearing how she treats her staff, I think it's safe to say that she is a diva, and I would just never want to work for her. Lance Armstrong was regarded as a sports icon for winning the Tour de France 7 consecutive times from 1999 to 2005. But for much of the second phase of his career, Lance faced constant allegations of doping, and he denied it. That was until a confession during an interview with Oprah Winfrey in January 2013, when he finally admitted to all of his cheating in sports. But shortly after becoming Lance's personal assistant, Mike Anderson allegedly stumbled upon a box in his bathroom labeled with the name of a banned steroid, and the box soon disappeared. Now, as time went on, Mike started to feel more uncomfortable about things with Lance, as he had always denied he didn't dope. That's when, as Mike describes in a story, Lance fired him. He was asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, in his words, that would have made me liable for a large sum of money if I ever mentioned ever having worked for Armstrong. Now, he refused, and soon after he faced lawsuits and public scrutiny. Now, this was before the truth came out about Lance's doping, and he was essentially a scapegoat. He was painted by Lance's lawyers as a disgruntled schemer and essentially had to move to New Zealand to pursue his dreams of opening his own bike shop, and they did all of this to just cover up a lie, and it's a real shame. And finally, Harrison Chung was Christian Bale's personal assistant for over a decade, and he wrote the biography Christian Bale: The Inside Story of the Darkest Batman. Now, he released lots of shocking information about the star. He said if Christian was away filming on location, I would take care of his 5 pets, along with stray possums in the backyard, as a special request. I'd do anything from sniffing Christian's armpits for BO, right before he hit the red carpet, to making emergency sock runs if Christian was all out of clean ones. Sometimes duties were as exciting as traveling to film festivals, and as dull as watching Christian surf in case something needed to be done on shore. Now, he also said that Christian is often awful when fans approach him, as he'd reportedly lecture little girls about being rude and intrusive until tears streamed down their faces and their parents took them away from our table. Now, Harrison even told the Daily Mail, "My therapist would describe my condition as post-traumatic stress disorder, and it really seems like it after having to deal with all that stuff." Celebrities aren't always nice to the people who work for them. Don't believe me? Well, let's start off with Naomi Campbell. She is notoriously one of the most difficult celebrities to work with. She was one of 6 models of her generation declared supermodels by the fashion industry and the international press, and I think it's safe to say that this got to her head, and she thought that she could behave however she wanted. Back in 1998, Georgina Galanis filed a lawsuit claiming Naomi became physical with her while they were on a work trip in Canada. Amongst the shocking allegations Georgina brought to light, she alleged that Naomi grabbed her by the throat and even hit her with a phone. Along with that, in 2004, her maid claimed to have been slapped in the face. In 2005, her personal assistant alleged Naomi had smacked her around the head with a BlackBerry, while another associate accused her of coming over like Mike Tyson after they wore the same dress to an event. In 2006, she was arrested on suspicion of attacking her drugs counselor, while a former housekeeper sought damages and claimed that she was a violent super bigot. Now, in 2007, she was sentenced to community service after assaulting her New York maid, who had required stitches after Naomi beat her around the head with a crystal-encrusted phone when she couldn't find a certain pair of jeans. Yeah, that sounds absolutely horrible, and I have no idea why anyone would want to work for her. Then an online user spoke of their experience with Bruce Willis and said this: "His movie Hostage was being filmed in several locations of Azusa Canyon. I was a member of a non-profit charity organization that had a sizable gated lot off the base of the canyon, and our location was perfect for many production crews as they could leave all their equipment safely stored overnight. The lot was rented quite often for that purpose. During filming, Mr. Willis would come and go through the lot, where his trailer was also located. Occasionally, a member of the organization would approach him to greet him or ask him for a quick pic, and each and every time without fail, Mr. Willis would stare the person down and quite often say something something to them that included his obviously well-rehearsed F-bombs. One instance in particular, I was arriving with one of the senior members of the organization for an early morning meeting. We, after clearing the massive security detail to get into our own lot, parked the car and proceeded to walk towards the entrance of the building. Like any normal human being in a social situation, we wished good morning to the people that we happened to be passing. Honestly, I didn't even realize who it was until he turned his head in our direction and said, "F you." Yikes. On the website Quora, Emily Watford, who worked at the arena where JLo once performed, detailed how her niceness is so fake disgusting. Everything in her room had to be white, she made them close and sanitize the entire child playroom for only her kid or kids, whatever she has. And that isn't too bad. If you got the money to do that, then do it, she said. But Emily added what was bad that a doorman looked at her and apparently she hates when staff look at her. So she started yelling at whoever about it in front of the doorman like he wasn't there. He said so much for Jenny from the block as she got him fired. Now that's not all though, as according to HuffPost UK, the singer has reportedly banned staff from working on her new home from talking or making eye contact with her. And she allegedly gave these requirements for a new assistant. The person has to be graceful under pressure, have thick skin, and be resourceful in foreign countries. You'll be on call 24/7, you have to change diapers, work on little sleep, and cook if the butler is away. Now, according to several of JLo's former staff members, Jennifer earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff around 50% less than they could make elsewhere. Now she just treats people like trash and wants to be treated like a queen. Harold Ramis was directing the film Groundhog Day and Bill Murray was starring in it, although Bill was not behaving properly. Now Bill was so fed up with the studio and Harold that he would dodge phone calls, be late to shoots, and basically just blew them off. The communication between himself, the studio, and the director was so poor that they suggested Bill get an assistant to deal with all of that. So he hired a personal assistant who was profoundly deaf, did not have oral speech, only spoke American Sign Language, which Bill did not speak, nor did anyone else in the production, Harold told Entertainment Weekly. But Bill said, "Don't worry, I'm going to learn sign language," and I think it was so inconvenient that in a couple weeks he gave that up. That's anti-communication, you know, let's not talk. Yeah, now that's just insane for everyone involved, and that poor assistant, they probably had no idea what was going on. Now we all know in 2022, Amber Heard had a defamation trial with her ex-husband Johnny Depp. As part of that trial, her former assistant Kate James testified, and she worked for Amber from 2012 to 2015. Now in her testimony, she made some pretty shocking allegations about what working for her was really like. Kate claimed in court that Amber would often scream at her and allegedly use illegal substances. She also accused Amber of spitting in her face during her employment, but that was hardly the first time Kate made some dark allegations about her former employer. You see, 2 years earlier, she spoke out against Amber in another trial, this time when Johnny Depp took on the British tabloid The Sun over an op-ed piece Amber had written for the outlet. Now that time, Variety reported that Kate accused Amber of sending her rude and hurtful messages early in the morning on more than one occasion. She also claimed that Amber took her personal story of being an SA survivor and used it as her own. Now Amber had a different version of this story though, as when she took the stand, she spoke out against Kate's allegations and overall character, as she told the court that her former assistant was not easy to work with. Kate's behavior was horrible, she stated. Now, per NBC News, Graham Chase Robinson accused Robert De Niro of allegedly touching her without her permission and making lewd comments while in her presence. Not only that, but Graham said she was asked to do tasks that she wasn't expecting while working for the actor, including household chores and even scratching him on the back. Now, as for what Robert had to say about the allegations, he made it pretty clear he wasn't going to co-sign on his former assistant's take of events, with his lawyers telling Us Weekly, the allegations made by Graham Chase Robinson against Robert De Niro are beyond absurd. But that wasn't the only drama in this situation, as Graham's allegations came as a part in a countersuit. Robert's Canal Productions had actually filed a lawsuit against Graham that same year, accusing her of not doing her job properly. Now the company alleged that she had a tendency to buy things using her company card, and also supposedly enjoyed watching TV while she was supposed to be working. Now Robert also speculated per TMZ that Graham had only made her allegations in in retaliation for the initial lawsuit. Now, in recent years, BuzzFeed News spoke to former employees on the Ellen DeGeneres show, all who remained anonymous. They said they were fired after taking medical leave or bereavement days to attend family funerals. One employee, who claims that she was fed up with comments about her race, essentially walked off the job, and honestly, good for her. Others said they were instructed by their direct managers to not speak to Ellen if they saw her around the office. Now, most of the former employees blamed executive producers and other senior managers for the day-to-day toxicity, but one former employee said that ultimately it's Ellen's name on the show and she really needs to take more responsibility for the workplace environment. Now, if she wants to have her own show and have her name on the show title, she needs to be more involved in what's going on, one former employee said. It's also said that Ellen only appears to be bubbly and down to earth on camera, but backstage she is demanding and rude to her staff. In fact, the same anonymous source revealed that after hours, staffers get together and talk about Queen Ellen. A few had even quit because of her behavior. And what is Ellen's behavior to her staff, you may ask? Well, apparently she explodes at staffers over the tiniest things. Yeah, Ellen doesn't sound like a fun person to work for. And finally, in 2012, Lady Gaga's assistant Jennifer O'Neill brought a lawsuit against her that claimed that the singer owed her roughly $390,000 for more than 7,000 hours of overtime. During her 13-month stint as the singer's helper, Jennifer said she was expected to be on call 24/7, wake the star up, and even make sure she had a towel waiting after a shower. She added that the two frequently slept in the same bed because Jennifer never had her own hotel room while on tour and was required to address Gaga's needs throughout the night. Now that is just wrong. The Daily Mail also revealed that during a videotaped deposition, Gaga was quoted as saying, "Jennifer is an effing hood rat who is suing me for money that she didn't earn."
J-Lo, who has famously declared, "Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got, I'm still Jenny from the block," has weathered tales of her alleged snobbery for years. In just one instance reported by the Daily Star, when contractors were hired for a job that could take up to a year on J-Lo's old house, those contractors were reportedly informed that they were not to communicate directly with the international star. A source told the tabloids that she has made it clear that if any of the contractors, drivers, or domestic help make eye contact or speak to her, she will not be impressed. J-Lo's supposed superficial superstar antics apparently extend to service workers who just aren't directly in her employ, but who have the unfortunate one-time experience of being snubbed by her. A source said she doesn't speak to salespeople, she doesn't speak to restaurant people, she doesn't speak to hotel staff, flight attendants, she only talks through her assistants. A United Airlines flight attendant backed up this claim, sharing a similar experience with the singer. "I just said, 'What can I get you to drink?' But Jennifer refused to even acknowledge them." They added that she turned her head away and told her personal assistant, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime." She wouldn't even look at me. Now, according to the sources I found, Jennifer has an extreme thing about people looking at her, other than when she's on stage. Then everybody's gotta look at her. Otherwise, if small, unimportant people look at her, and God forbid, open their little unimportant mouths to speak to her holiness, she does whatever she can to retaliate. If they're servers or anyone she can get fired, she gets them fired. In 2013, J-Lo's morals came into question when it was reported that she earned in the neighborhood of $10 million performing for shady dictators, at least according to news outlets. Also, apparently, the Human Rights Foundation and a lot of folks were very critical of J-Lo's decision to put on a private performance in Turkmenistan for the president at the time, whose government allegedly restricted free speech and imprisoned those who spoke against the nation's alleged corruption. J-Lo's then publicist Mark Young issued a response, however, and the statement made J-Lo's team appear really ill-informed. They said this was not a government-sponsored event or political in nature. The event was vetted by her reps. Had there been knowledge of human rights issues of any kind, Jennifer would not have attended. Well, that statement probably didn't go over well, considering how Human Rights Watch's Rachel Denber, Deputy Director for Europe and Central Asia Division, explained that J-Lo's team didn't have to dig deep for information that would have revealed the controversy surrounding the whole presidential leadership corruption stuff. It was something even J-Lo herself could have discovered. Denber literally said, "Just do a few Google clicks, look up the human rights record, it's right there, it's easy to find." Well, 2 months after the backlash, Young was fired from J-Lo's team. With the whole fiasco going boom in everybody's face, was it possible Young eventually took the fall for what appeared to be some blame shifting after the fact? I think so. Forbes credits makeup artist Scott Barnes with creating the signature technique that became Lopez's iconic glow, which in turn became the preferred look of the era in the early 2000s. The makeup artist has worked with J.Lo since the year 2000, whether it was serving as J.Lo's personal makeup artist for her role in 2019's Hustlers, or for the Super Bowl performance, or whatever it may be. And while their working relationship and friendship spans 2 decades, there was a time when Barnes apparently didn't have her love. Barnes spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show after rumors circulated that Barnes and 2 others leaked plans of J.Lo and Anthony's secret marriage. J.Lo's team shunned him. He said, "Nobody would talk to me. It was like I had some sort of disease." When the truth came out that Barnes did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he received a phone call, presumably from J.Lo, whom Barnes claimed said the following: "It was like, hey, it was a big misunderstanding. You know, we have a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work." And although Barnes was extremely diplomatic in his recounting of the temporary fallout, it's clear that he never received a direct apology, or even a real apology. What's even more interesting is that considering Barnes and Lopez quickly reconciled, he chose not to keep this story about her in-house. So I guess he's the one person she didn't have sign an NDA? Hakan Manoukian began chauffeuring J.Lo and her then-husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011, at least according to TMZ. By September of that year, Manoukian was gone from J.Lo's staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination against J.Lo, her company, New Yorkin Productions, and manager Benny Medina. Manoukian claimed his agreement with J.Lo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 per year. But according to tabloids, however, he claimed that he received no production pay or overtime whatsoever. CNN further reported that Manoukian's suit claimed that he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. J.Lo filed a countersuit seeking a minimum of $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was allegedly blackmailing her for $2.8 million as he threatened to expose private information he overheard when chauffeuring her. So the countersuit alleged that he became hostile and angry after J.Lo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video production. J.Lo's countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and the singer ended up settling the original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February of 2013. Wish we knew the terms though. Gilly Ayer was a longtime assistant for J.Lo until 2013, when she reportedly left without informing J.Lo she'd been looking elsewhere for work. Quiet quitting. According to sources, Gilly went to work for Jermaine Dupri a week after he joined Mariah Carey's management team. Now, J.Lo and Mariah Carey have been publicly painted as rivals for quite some time, so Gilly jumping ship to Lopez's big nemesis camp seemed to sting a lot. We're talking like butter on a burn a lot. Reports surfaced that J.Lo's then boyfriend Casper Smart allegedly ruffled feathers with a lot of J.Lo's staff. Casper always insisted that all of Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that Gilly get him drinks. At least that's what a source told online sources. So with Jenny from the block allegedly doing nothing to set him straight, that may have been the breaking point as to why Gilly left. Gilly had enough. She was over it. She'd been looking to leave for some time, and as soon as Mariah hired Jermaine, she quit. J.Lo was stunned. Now, Gilly may not have publicly trashed J.Lo, but is there anything colder than a personal assistant leaving a celeb staff on short notice to go work for their rival? So, how bad did this hurt the former Fly Girl? Well, it's unclear, but in 2015, Page Six revealed that J.Lo reportedly had a no Mariah clause in her contract with her manager Benny Medina, barring him from managing Mariah Carey at the same time as her. So, oop. According to at least several of J.Lo's former staff members, she's earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff a lot less than they can make elsewhere. We're talking like half of what they can make elsewhere. Now, this rumor has been going around for years. We're talking like back in 2003, when Jennifer was first with Ben Affleck. They were out in Vegas, they were having a good time, they had a big win, and Ben was feeling generous. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna tip the dealer $2,000. But before the dealer could actually claim the reward, J.Lo was like, no, you get $200. So, why does J.Lo pay her staff so little? She's like, well, you know what? I had to work hard to get my money, so you have to work hard to get yours. Which, like, I'm sorry, that's embarrassing. If you had to work so hard to earn your money, wouldn't you want to make it easier for others because you know how hard it is? Come on, queen. An ex-private airport employee called J.Lo a nightmare person on Twitter before dishing out several stories about negative interactions with the superstar. Twitter user @MoiraWebb claimed she worked at a private airport on Long Island when J.Lo was in her relationship with Mark Anthony. They said, I have so many stories about her being a rude and nasty person. It's gross to say, but each time she fails at anything, it delights me. So, okay, that's like really intense hating. Surely JLo couldn't be that bad, right? Wrong. Come on, you've been here long enough today. So Webb told 5 stories about brutal interactions with JLo, and these range. We're talking like some were just kind of bizarre, some of them were just plain mean. But it definitely seems like, if you haven't figured it out already, JLo doesn't care about people if you're not her. The first story, she's got this standing catering order, even if she's only going like 20 minutes away, and that order needs to have a KFC bucket. So she was flying out in the morning before KFC opened, and her team freaked out that they didn't have the bucket. So this employee was demanded to go get some, was given some cash. They drove like a bat out of hell and begged KFC to open early, make one for her. They were excited it was JLo, they made one. But this worker actually didn't have enough cash. They had to give her a senior citizens discount to cover it. And as they're speeding back, they look up, the flight's taking off. Even though they're like, no, we can't leave without it. So they're like, why did I even have to do that?
We all know that Oprah likes to be in control and have things the way she wants it to be. So from NDAs to giving up your personal life, here's our list of extreme rules Oprah demands from her staff. Now, one thing that was emphasized was that Oprah's show came before everything else, including her employees' families. When Oprah launched the OWN network, the first show she premiered was season 25, Oprah Behind the Scenes. Now, in that episode, she asked women that worked for her to speak about their experiences, and they did not hold back. Now, a large portion of the women who worked for Oprah had their own families, and they spoke about how they had to make certain sacrifices in their personal lives for the success of the show. They talked about the challenges they faced as working moms, and one of them was quoted as saying, "I had to be okay with making sacrifices for work. I hope I inspire that passion in my children." Now, Oprah thanked them for working long hours and sacrificing their personal lives, but made it clear that it was necessary and par for the course. I mean, yes, it is important to be dedicated to your work, but not having the balance of being able to be with your family just seems way too extreme. I mean, you'd think with Oprah being worth so much money, she'd be able to hire as many people as she needed and not leave people overworked or missing important events in their lives. Now, to be honest, I really hate that rule. Now, this was just reaffirmed by Libby Moore, who spent 11 years working as Oprah's chief of staff. "I hit the job jackpot," she told Women's Agenda from her New York base. "It was like winning a grand slam. It was extraordinary, and even now, 5.5 years after leaving, it's actually hard to articulate because it was so massive," she said. Now, to say that the job was consuming was a vast understatement. An average day saw Libby arrive for work between 6:30 and 7 a.m. and leave between 10 to 11 p.m. Now, the show was syndicated to 144 countries, and the demands were constant. Libby would routinely reply to 250 emails while watching the taping of the talk show, and that was just 1 hour of her 15-hour day. "I got to take care of her so that she could do what she did best. It was my pleasure to support her in that way," Libby explained. As far as pressure goes, the highs were super high and the lows were super low. Not because of Oprah, because of everything else swirling around that level of power, money, and fame. "I wasn't very good at balancing my life. As amazing as the job was and the friendship that Oprah and I had, my personal life was really suffering. I had 3 long-term relationships while I was in that job," she says. "I could not continue any longer in the position. I needed to take a leap of faith and see where I would land." Wow, that is very intense. Then there's also the fact that Oprah makes everyone sign NDAs. Now, this isn't too surprising, but most NDAs are for a limited time. Hers though, well, her staff must sign lifetime agreements. In the year 2000, Oprah defended the restrictive gag order for employees, saying, "I have to function in an environment where I feel I could trust my employees." Now, honestly, this just feels extreme, but it seems like they take this quite seriously, as Elizabeth Cody, a former producer for Harpo Productions, wanted to write a tell-all book about her experiences, but she was unable to. Now, the whole thing went through court, but Oprah had a strong team. Now, in addition to having NDAs that keep her safe, she also has the best security team. Oprah once hired Michael J. White to her security team before he went on to become the first black actor to play a superhero. White is trained in Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, and numerous other martial arts. Now, it seems like Oprah really puts an emphasis on safety, physical and intellectual. Something else is that you need to be prepared to deal with controversies and the potential there could be lawsuits, and you might be called in to testify. Or the fact that a case could completely throw your life for a loop. You see, in the spring of 1996, according to CBS News, the United Kingdom experienced an outbreak of mad cow disease. Per the FDA, the disease destroys cows' central nervous system, and if humans eat infected beef, they can contact a deadly variant. Now, during the mad cow scare, the Oprah Winfrey Show booked Howard Lehman, and the former cattle rancher had adopted a vegetarian lifestyle and went to work for the Humane Society's Eating with Conscious Animal Welfare campaign, and he appeared on the show to discuss the threat of mad cow to Americans. Now, he pointed out that feeding the remains of mad cow infected cattle to other animals could have facilitated the spread, and that such practices were common in the US. Now, Oprah was left stunned by this. Now, with Oprah's influence, right after the episode aired, beef prices plummeted for almost 2 weeks, hitting a 10-year low. Now, as a result, a group of Texas cattle ranchers sued Oprah for $10.3 million, alleging that her remarks caused undue harm to the entire beef industry. Now, one Texas rancher, Paul Engler, lost an estimated $6.7 million and organized a class action libel lawsuit against Oprah and her show's producers for besmirching American beef. Now, after a 6-week trial in Texas, she won, but I mean, just imagine having to go through all of that. Now, this wasn't a rule for her staff, but for who was paying them. The first year of her talk show, Oprah gave her staff members rolls of toilet paper. Now, in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Oprah said she put a special message in the rolls back in 1986. Now, this came in the wake of management refusing to give the staff raises. They said, direct quote, "Why do they need more money? They're a bunch of girls." I said, well, it's a bunch of girls who are now doing a national show. And they said they're in the same room with the same desks in the same office on the same street. They don't need any more money, recalled Oprah. So if management wasn't going to help, Oprah decided that she would find a way to reward her employees. So that first year, I gave everyone bonuses. I had a big dinner, and my idea of being creative was to have $10,000 rolled up into toilet paper rolls at the dinner as gifts because I couldn't get my management to pay them, she revealed. Then I went to management and said, if you don't pay them, I'm not going to work. By the next year, it was like, I'm not going to keep paying them. I shouldn't have to pay everybody out of my salary. That informed me that if I ever get my own business, I'm going to pay people well, she said. Now, it's actually really good that she did this and created a change, especially for the times. And Oprah also makes sure that all of her staff are acting appropriately. You see, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls opened in Johannesburg in 2007. This was one of Oprah's passion products, as she founded it with $40 million of her own money, and she even hand-selected the 152 students who attended. But less than a year after the school opened, 6 of the 152 students who had been personally selected came forward to accuse dorm matron Virginia Tiny MacGobo of mistreating them. Virginia pleaded not guilty, and her trial was ongoing. She was arrested in November 2007 and released on bail, where she faced 14 different charges. "It has shaken me to my core," Oprah said, of returning to South Africa with a team of private detectives to investigate the allegations and personally speak with the girls. "This has been one of the most devastating, if not the most devastating, experiences in my life," she said. Now, in the end, Oprah fired all the matrons no matter what, and following the first trial, she was then sued by the headmistress of the school for defamation. She alleged that Oprah defamed her by implying she was covering up the mistreatment going on at the school. However, this case was later settled outside of court before the arranged trial, according to CNN.
At number 10, Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey isn't the nicest person ever. We already know this. She's had run-ins with the paparazzi, which have not gone over well. She's had some bad relationships with others. She's known for being something of a diva. The theme here is that Mariah doesn't really treat people with the respect that they deserve, and this is probably why she's been sued for this kind of thing before. There was a lawsuit from one of Mariah's former assistants that claimed that the singer peed on her, ridiculed her body, and called her some pretty rude names. Her former assistant assistant said that she was hired by the singer to be on call 24/7 and assisted both Mariah and her manager. Though she was paid a salary of $250,000 a year, this wage couldn't cover up the torment that she sustained from Mariah. But her case wasn't the only one up against the singer at the time. While this case was being disputed, Mariah had just settled one with her former manager, which cited breach of contract, harassment, and unpaid wages. It seems like though she pays her people well, she doesn't treat them as well as she should. Many other employees have had similar horror stories, which just shows that maybe working for the Queen of Christmas isn't as holly jolly as you might think.
And at number 9, Christian Bale. Christian Bale is definitely the person I would want to work for the least, because he uses intimidation and threats of physical harm towards his assistants. One of his former assistants had such a bad experience working for the star, he actually wrote a whole book exposing him. The book's called Christian Bale: The Inside Story of the Darkest Batman. It was an inside look into the negative experiences the assistant witnessed while working for him. Apparently one time fans approached Bale for an autograph, but they ended up running away crying because of how mean he was. Another time Bale got fan mail sent to his home, and Bale told the assistant that the fan should be quote eliminated, adding quote a screwdriver thrust through the eyeball into the brain prevents any screaming. Let me know how it goes. Things were so bad the assistant was diagnosed with PTSD afterwards.
At number 8, Naomi Campbell. Supermodel Naomi Campbell has been in the fashion industry for over 30 years. Over this time, she's had her fair share of scandals and feuds which have painted Naomi as the industry's mean girl. She's known for having had violent outbursts, and Naomi has been accused of being violent on 11 occasions and has been convicted of harming others 4 times. Some of the reported violent incidents include the model physically harming her assistant, grabbing her by the throat and beating her with a phone, harming another assistant and allegedly holding her hostage, throwing her phone at a housekeeper, and other accounts of emotional and physical distress. Out of these incidents, the model has been sued on multiple occasions, and they all mostly just settled out of court, but she was required to take an anger management class on top of all of her payouts. There's been some things that have been covered up, but luckily these days Naomi doesn't seem to be harming others like she used to and has moved on from this dark time.
And at number 7, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian was sued by 7 former staff members in May of this year. The employees claimed that they were not paid enough or given breaks while employed at her California home. The lawsuit claimed that the staff never received pay stubs and weren't paid on a regular basis. They also were not given any breaks for meals or rest, and they weren't paid for all the hours they worked, along with other issues regarding compensation. But Kim claimed this was not true and that she was not responsible for paying these employees. Apparently they worked for another company and were paid through this third party. Kim's spokesperson said, quote, "Kim is not party to the agreement made between the vendor and their workers. Therefore, she is not responsible for how the vendor manages their business."
At number 6, Marilyn Manson. This year, a lot of dark information came out about singer Marilyn Manson. Multiple women came forward recounting their awful experiences with Manson, saying that the singer had harmed them severely. Some celebrities were part of the group of people who spoke out against the singer, but on top of that, one of Marilyn's assistants has also spoken out against the singer and even filed a lawsuit against him for having endured so much while working for him. The singer's assistant claimed that he had tried to kiss her, touch her inappropriately, and even made her work 48 hours straight. It was also claimed that Manson lured his assistant into working for him with promises of quote, artistic collaborations and creative opportunities. End quote. The assistant said that she lived in constant fear of one of his violent outbursts, and she said that she felt used, comparing herself to a piece of meat. To think that any of this happened to the people affected by Manson's actions is absolutely heartbreaking, and justice needs to be served.
Halfway at number 5, Sharon Stone. Stone was sued by her former nanny after that nanny accused her of violating labor laws. The nanny also claimed that Stone made derogatory comments about her ethnicity. The nanny is of Filipino heritage and claims she was, quote, repeatedly subjected to numerous derogatory comments and slurs by Stone related to her Filipino ethnicity and heritage, mainly during her last 6 months of employment. These comments were allegedly relating to the nanny's accent. Apparently the nanny was told not to speak so Stone's kids would not develop an accent like hers. Stone denied the claims and said it was, quote, an absurd lawsuit with made up and fabricated claims filed by a disgruntled ex-employee who's obviously looking to get money any way she can. But only 1 year after this suit, Stone was sued by another employee, her then maid Angelica Castillo, for, quote, wrongful termination.
At number 4, Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is one of the most famous singers out there, so you know that she makes a lot of money, but even with all of her riches, apparently apparently she wanted to keep a lot of it for herself and not pay her staff. Back in 2011, Gaga was sued by a former assistant who claimed that the singer had cheated her out of her overtime wages when she worked alongside the singer for 13 months from 2009 to February 2010. According to the assistant, they were supposed to earn a flat rate of $50,000 annually in the first year, and in the second year of working for the singer, that rate was bumped up to $75 grand. It's still a good paycheck, but the assistant claimed that she never got her bonus overtime pay despite the fact that she had to work and be on call 24/7. Though the case was supposed to go to trial in 2013, they ended up coming to a settlement agreement before they ever entered the courtroom.
And at number 3, Celine Dion. In 2012, Celine and her late husband were sued by their former handyman, Keith Sturdivant, for unpaid wages. This handyman worked at their Florida compound and performed duties like cleaning shutters, repairing appliances, and running errands. The lawsuit goes on to allege that Dion improperly and illegally designed Sturdivant as an exempt employee, which allowed them to avoid paying him overtime, which he is rightfully owed. Because of this, he is suing for unpaid back wages that he was entitled to during employment. At the time, he said others were also not paid what they were owed, so it wasn't clear if other people might be joining him in the suit. The suit was later settled for an undisclosed amount.
At number 2, Courtney Love. In 2012, Courtney Love got into some serious drama with one of her former assistants, and it got pretty ugly. Courtney's former assistant filed a lawsuit against the singer seeking wages, expenses, and punitive damages for, quote, wrongful firing, wage and overtime violations, false promise, breach of contract, negligent and intentional misrepresentation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The assistant had nothing but negative reviews for having worked for Courtney, and she was prepared to tell the whole world about it as she was planning to publish an expose about her time with Courtney. In a copy of the book Proposal, this expose promised all kinds of inside knowledge about the celebrity, including details about how she is a, quote, alleged hoarder, media manipulator, and drug user, end quote. Nothing ever came of this book, I don't think, and I'm not quite sure what happened with the rest of the case, but I for one would have loved to know what this assistant had to say because I have a feeling it would have been very juicy.
And finally at number 1, Charlie Sheen. Back in 2015, Charlie Sheen was sued for $1 million by a former staff member named Keith Fitzgerald. When Fitzgerald was originally hired in 2013, he was offered a 3-year contract with a salary of $300,000, medical benefits, and 20% incentive bonus as well. He was supposed to work for 3 years but was fired after only 5 months. Because of this inconsistency, the staff member sued for premature termination. Allegedly, Sheen didn't pay for any of his work either. The lawsuit said in part, quote, Fitzgerald's employment relationship was prematurely terminated after approximately 5 months without any explanation. Fitzgerald received no compensation whatsoever for any of the services he performed for Charlie Sheen at any time whatsoever. Sheen denied the claims and called the whole thing bogus, but the suit was later settled for an undisclosed amount.
Number 10. Kim's nannies. Kim Kardashian is arguably one of the most famous of the Kardashian sisters, and it would also seem she's the busiest. For example, Kim has 4 kids, a skincare line, her Skims brand, she's attending law school, co-founded an equity team, and even recently hopped on the podcast train. In addition to filming her new reality show on Hulu. You may be asking yourself, how does one woman do all of that by herself? Well, she pays people to do it for her, duh. She has multiple assistants and nannies to help her stay above the overwhelming workload, but has been known to treat them as lesser than herself. For instance, on several occasions, Kim and her daughter North would go to lunch accompanied by a nanny, but Kim would always make her nanny sit at a separate table far away from them when they were in restaurants. But she is known to make her nannies also walk at least like 10 feet away from her at all times. Unless she has multiple nannies with her at once, then she likes to make them stand in like a V formation because it looks cool apparently. If they walk near her or attempt to try and walk side by side, she blows up at them behind closed doors. And needless to say, she has had many nannies over the year and has probably made a lot of them cry at least once. Number 9. Kourtney in general. While Kim may not be the best boss in the world, it's Kourtney who is known as the absolute worst boss of all time. According to former nannies, Kourtney was by far the worst Kardashian to work for. Not only is she a neat freak, needing every single thing to be exactly where it should be, but she's also known for being surprisingly cheap, even once calling a grocery store while she was shopping to compare the prices of a chicken breast. Because, if anyone needs that extra 99 cents, it's Kourtney. But this isn't the worst thing she's done. At one time, Kourtney's daughter had bitten a nanny so hard that she had to quit. But instead of letting it go and taking responsibility for not teaching her daughter how to act properly, she actually berated the nanny and told her that she should have said something to her daughter in the moment. Cause yes, blame the woman that you're paying to raise your child instead of the child itself, who's probably got some kind of an abandonment issue. Number 8. Toxic chemicals. Kylie Jenner is the youngest of the Kardashian clan, is extremely successful for her age. In 2019, she made the cover of Forbes magazine as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following the successful partnership between her cosmetic brand and Ulta, a beauty salon company, which would allow the brand previously only available online and in random pop-up stores to be placed on shelves in Ulta's 1,000 plus stores. This is unfortunate considering the true nature of just where those products come from. You see, many employees at the factory that mix and package her makeup have reported that they were never given any proper safety equipment that one would require to do that job. They were only given hairnets, lab coats, and safety goggles, leaving their hands and faces completely exposed. And workers would regularly report migraines, mild chemical burns on their hands, and a myriad of other symptoms. If this isn't bad enough, they were also forced to act as human test subjects for Kylie's new products. Now, Kylie was very proud of her company not testing products on animals, but we can agree that using people like guinea pigs is like 1,000,000,000 times worse, right guys? Number 7. The underpay. While the Kardashians have had their problems with staff individually, there seems to be one specifically toxic trait that the family shares as a unit. They don't like to pay people. Former employees have come forward over the years calling out the family for not paying them fair wages or overtime hours. The Kardashians don't cover expenses, meaning gas, food, rent, anything that you need is paid out of pocket, with zero money coming back to you. To make matters worse, the Kardashians wouldn't pay them on a set amount of days, meaning you just kinda gotta check when you gotta check and had to deal with it in between A and B. You would think with the family being one of the richest in the world that they would at least pay the people that help run their lives. Now, while they have a massive staff of people cooking their food, folding their clothes, and raising their children, they barely even acknowledge their existence. Just imagine what would happen if that staff decided to walk out. The family would crumble in less than a day. Number 6. Factory workers. Popping back to Kylie's makeup factory for a moment, we felt the need to split her misdoings into 2 separate entries simply because of just how messed up this place really is. Not only do they not have proper safety equipment and are basically used as human test subjects whenever Kylie wants, the factory itself is small and cramped, with many employees claiming that there were too many workers and not enough space. This description sounds very similar to, a sweatshop, which is a word describing a workplace in which the employees work ridiculous hours and brutal conditions for nearly nothing for pay. And a lot of people agreed with that statement. One former tester recounts having to constantly go back and forth to the bathroom as her anxiety was always through the roof. She was around so many people so much of her day, and it was such a terrible work environment. We completely understand the need to escape. At one point a few years back, Kylie even refused to pay her employees at a garment factory in Bangladesh, leaving thousands of employees with no money and no idea when or if they were going to return to work. Man, you know what? You suck, Kylie. Number 5. Victoria. Victoria Valero has been Kylie's close personal assistant since 2015, but the pair go back to 2014 when she was interning as a personal assistant for Kylie's mother, Kris. After gaining the family's trust, she was hired as Kylie's house manager at first, but soon after became her personal assistant. Herself and Jenner became very close over the years, and Victoria was even present at the secret birth of Kylie's daughter, Stormi. Now, you would think with being so close to the family through thick and thin that she would want to stick around, right? Well, all good things must come to an end, as Victoria decided to quit in 2019. Many fans allege that she had just quit her job to focus on becoming an Instagram influencer, but that was far from her real reason for leaving. Being in that family means seeing a lot of stuff and doing a lot of stuff, and Victoria was basically in charge of scheduling Kylie's life, booking appointments, meetings, massages, all of this stressful enough, basically being a 24/7 gig, but the job was also very degrading, with Kylie having Victoria even pull out a stool once and set it up outside so that Kylie could get out of her car smoother. I think anyone in their right mind would want to get out of that job as quickly as possible. Number 4. Paid and exposure. When Andre Turbia, a very famous YouTube animator and content creator, was asked to work with Kylie Jenner, he thought that his life would change forever. He was under the impression that the collaboration would grant him a huge amount of money, possibly a guest spot on her reality TV show, and maybe some shoutouts online via Instagram and Twitter. However, when Andre brought up the topic of his compensations to Jenner, she responded with, the company doesn't actually have a budget right now to pay you, so we're just gonna have to pay you in exposure. Like, okay, that's cool. You can't cook exposure in a frying pan and eat it for dinner though, and I'm pretty sure it's not currency accepted at any gas stations or banks that I know of. And of course, by exposure, she meant that Andre's name was going to be printed as small as possible underneath her content. Andre did what anyone in their right mind would do in that situation and refused to work with her, telling her to take her exposure and shove it where the sun don't shine. Number 3, GoFundMe. In March 2021, Kylie, oh look, she's back again, shared an Instagram post asking for prayers for one of her makeup artist named Samuel Rhoda. The post redirected fans to a GoFundMe page where they were asking to donate money for covering his medical bills for an upcoming surgery. That's right, the woman made a feature on Forbes' top 60 self-made women and was asking her fans to give over the goods. So why would she not just use some of her billions of dollars to cover the bills herself? Well, she went online to claim that her and Sam didn't actually know each other personally, but she had worked with him a few years ago and thought that he was a sweetheart. Supposedly, her current makeup artist had shared a post about Samuel's accident, which included a link to a GoFundMe campaign created by his family. She went on to let fans know that she herself donated like $5,000. Okay, sure, that's a ton of money for us, but for Jenner, that's like $5. So something tells me the surgery is going to be a little bit more than that. This is just another instance proving that Kylie is the absolute worst. Number 2, Forbes flub. Oh, I'm sorry, was that not enough proof for you that Kylie sucks? Well, hey, here you go. As mentioned earlier in this list, Kylie Jenner made the cover of Forbes magazine in 2019 as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following the successful partnership between her cosmetic brand, named after herself, and Ulta, a beauty salon company. Well, it turned out that wasn't really the case. Jenner allegedly sold half of her cosmetics company, Kylie Cosmetics, to beauty giant Coty in a deal worth $1.2 billion. Now, this was huge and considered one of the greatest celebrity cash outs of all time. But the first rule of being a famous person is, if you can help it, try not to lie. Especially to like Forbes magazine, who did some digging and revealed that Jenner was actually inflating the size and profit margins of her business. It turned out the cosmetic brand was on a much smaller scale than originally thought, as it was uncovered Jenner only actually made around $314 million after taxes for her company. Several financial advisors backed up the story, claiming that they were berated into complying with the lie and made to help maintain the numbers for publicity's sake. The mother of the family, Kris, even played a key role in gathering false business documents to send to Forbes, making her company appear to be in the billions. Remember, if you can't figure something out, just ask mom. And number 1, the lawsuit. In March of 2021, a lawsuit was arranged by several of Kim's former employees. The plaintiffs claim Kardashian West failed to pay overtime, cover expenses, or provide any legally mandated breaks, which, like, hey, super illegal. They also never received actual pay stubs or any proof of payment whatsoever. They were also made to purchase everything out of pocket, and one plaintiff was even fired on the spot for simply addressing his concerns to Kim. And when the rest were eventually let go, they received no type of severance package or pay of any kind. It was also uncovered that Kim would keep 10% of all of their earnings for tax purposes, but failed to report their employment to tax authorities. Kim's argument was that she could not be held responsible for any of this, as most of her employees were supposedly hired and paid by a third-party company, meaning that she herself was not technically their direct employer and therefore could not be liable. Kim maintains that she paid people on time and that they were suing the wrong person, but if that were the case, maybe Kardashian would have used some of her high status and influence long ago to make things work for her staff so that, hey, maybe she wouldn't be getting sued right now. Something to think about, Kim.